Hi, everybody. It's Lisa Starr with another episode of StarrCast, the podcast for wellness warriors. And we are so lucky today to have an amazing wellness warrior and wellness pioneer with us. Anna Bjurstam, who is joining us from her eyrie in Sweden, in a rare moment of not being on an airplane, has agreed to speak with us today. Anna has an amazing journey from beginning in fitness. Anna and I, gosh, when did we meet? And I think it was in the Philippines in 2000 something. Michael Lowe event.
That must have been 2006 or something.
Yeah, it was a while back.
Right.
So I followed her career as she has risen meteorically. Currently the Senior Strategic Advisor to Rasonda Etra and Six Senses Resorts. And as I mentioned, a wellness pioneer. So great to welcome you, Anna, to the podcast today.
Thank you.
So the podcast is, hopefully serves as inspiration for people who are in wellness or want to be in wellness. And I think, Anna, your story is unique in that you came up through fitness and training and not the sort of spa salon side. Could you speak to a little bit about your career journey and how you came to be where you are today?
Sure. So I've always been in sports and fitness since I was a child. I started with swimming and then actually, despite my height, went into basketball. Got injured and I was playing in the highest league in Sweden, and I just came back from a scholarship in the US actually.
Wow.
But got injured, and a friend of mine said, "Why don't you come to me at an aerobic class?" This is 88, I think. So it's in the 80s. So what's that? And I tried it, and just as everyone else, felt as stupid as one does.
Right.
But it was just wonderful because suddenly you can go and train whenever you want, and then you just are and I just loved it. And I loved the dancing, although I wasn't a dancer. And a bit after, like I did that for about a year, and I decided not to go back to basketball because suddenly I was 18 and life had different values. And then this woman asked me if I could be an aerobic instructor. And this was 89, which I said yes to. I said, why not? And at that time, you could only pitch LP records.
Oh, gosh.
And you dripped sweat on them, and they jumped, and then you had to switch records between
amazing
different songs. So that was a time where we actually only read about steppers, the steppers that we see today.
Yeah, I love the step class.
But there were none in Europe at that time because it was so early days. So we built our own with a box and plywood on them.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how I got started. Anyway,
it's funny what you said about dancing, because those of us who weren't, dancers, we didn't have any instruction. And when aerobics started, it was like fun to move your body. You saying that made me remember that way back then, the Fonda method and all the things we used to do.
Yeah, I had the full thing, the headband,
the leg warmers,
the works, and the belt in the middle. So the G-string over the
right.
I mean, I had everything.
I would love to see a picture from those days.
I will send you one because I got one not recently.
Oh, I love it.
And then I continued. I worked in a bar. You did all kinds of things, but then I realized I needed to get a real job. And I said, okay, let's study university. So I went into university and I studied for 4 years while I was doing aerobics. And at that time, I was sponsored by Nike, and I went around the world and had master classes.
No, wait, why were you sponsored by Nike? Like, you say that like everyone is sponsored by Nike. How did that happen?
It was just, someone saw me doing a class a couple of years after I got a bit better at it, because I was pretty bad in the beginning. And someone saw me and said, then it was Reebok, and they wanted to sponsor me. And then I did some master classes, and then Nike said, could we come with a better offer? And at that time, it was really cool to be an aerobic instructor.
For sure.
And so they sponsored me, and I went to conventions around the world. There was everything from Saudi to Moscow to the US. So I used to travel every other weekend, and I did that throughout university. So it was great. I had like 5,000 people, I remember once in Moscow, MTV. And the
What?
only thing we had in the break room was champagne, vodka, and caviar, which is the last thing you want when you train.
Yeah, that helps you have an aerobic workout.
Yeah, it was good, but it was fun. And, it was at the time when Moscow was very, very different. That was in the early 90s. So anyway, so I did that, but then I went to university, got a master. I decided to do business. So I got a master's degree in finance, and then I was going to get a real job.
Mm-hmm.
And as one does sometimes, is that when I got out, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to go to McKinsey, but they didn't really hire women at the time. This was 97. It's a lot of changed because so Anderson Consulting, I got a job there, which is now Boston Consulting, I believe, which is what you want to do when you go out of business university. But there was also a gym chain opening. And at that time, it was like gyms for, in the cellars and anabolic and all these things. But I chose with my heart, and I decided to be part of opening this gym chain.
So I see BCG gym. You chose gym. I love it.
To my father's great disappointment, he finally thought that I would kind of come together and do something, what I should do. And then I went 4 years to university, and I start in a gym. So yeah, it wasn't his happiest moment. But it was great for me. And 2 years later, I had about 300 staff.
Goodness.
And was running 10 gyms. And this became a big industry. And we were just starting. We got acquired by 24 Hours Fitness, which at that time was the biggest fitness company in the world. And then it just kind of, so I got into all kinds of programs, and I was traveling and working like a madman, but with my passion. And then one other friend, Paul, he persuaded me for 2 years to do my first Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent retreat where you sit and meditate from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m, basically, and you hardly eat anything.
Goodness, that sounds really appealing.
It changed my life. It's the most life-changing thing I have done, I think, almost.
Well, how difficult was it? The first few days?
Difficult.
Yeah.
He took my car keys, so to speak. Otherwise, I would not have followed through, I think, because especially day 3, you're like, I'm out of here. This is stupid. Why am I sitting on a pillow? Your ego is just battling and saying, get out of this, because you're peeling layer of yourself. You get to know yourself. Our whole life are spent to talk about looking from the outside and what outside impression we have. Everything happens through our eyes, our ears, our senses. But how seldom do we just take silent time with ourselves and look inwards? And if we do it with a breathwork class or a sound bath or a short meditation, but just a 10-day, because you're not allowed to speak. So you're silent.
And is someone speaking to you? Is someone guiding you?
Yeah, you have a video, an hour a day, and then you have teachers that just start the meditation. And then you sit there. And so you get like how to meditate. And it's very, Vipassana is based on Anapana and other, which is basically just observe the world as it is. And the philosophy is be happy. It's kind of like shit happens, be happy. You cannot choose, but you can choose to be happy throughout whatever happens.
Like what you get when you read the Tao, that message of just be. So after day 3,
you just want to go. But then it gets better. And day 8, you don't want to leave. And day 9, you're in bliss. Not always. I've done many after that. But for me, it was life-changing. And I realized that career, financially, and physical fitness is just one part. You need emotional, you need spiritual, and you need mental health. And that was a realization that came as an insight that like I knew it in my body after I was done with those 10 days, that my life has changed forever. And then I got into healing, to yoga, to meditation, and got a lot more humble about life and how life is. And then that was the early days. And then things just as things do happen. And my best friend in university, who was also, we had aerobic classes together. He'd gone to London to do banking, but he was really bored, and he went into College of Healing and started Raison d'Être, and he wanted me to join. So he started it with a
Oh,
lady
I
called
always wondered
Rosemary.
how it started. Who was the friend?
His name was Alex Arnavid. He unfortunately died, and he was actually the first person in Sweden in the 80s ever diagnosed with AIDS or HIV. Now, he didn't die of that. He died of the medication. So he had a heart attack maybe 20 years later because his heart was twice the size because of the medication. But either way, we were really, really good friends and best friends, you could say. And he was working, I don't know if I should say this, but he was working at Swiss Bank at the time. Doesn't matter. And he was engaged to one of the people working there, a guy. So he was gay. But in Swiss Bank in late 90s, early 2000s,
that was not on.
No, you couldn't work there if you were gay. And so he was officially engaged to me.
I love it.
So that was, we were very close.
You were the token fiance.
Yeah. And so he started with College of Healing, which is a school that's in London. He met Rosamund Freeman Atwood. They decided to start Raison d'Etre. So they founded it. I jumped on, and we opened our first spot, Soneva Fushi, in year 2000. And then I quit my job in the end at SATS, the fitness company. And then I moved to the Maldives and started with spas. And that's how it all got started. And at that time, spas were more Guerlain, Givenchy, beauty focused. There was no yoga or healing. And we decided that we brought in kinesiologists, we got in great massage therapist, meditation, but no one did that. So this spa got enormous amount of press, and it was called Raison d'Etre. And suddenly the Soneva Fushi, the location, became known on the map. It got successful. People came because of the spa.
So you had a spa that had other wellness activities?
Yeah.
In 2000?
Yep.
Wow, you really are a pioneer. So you had classes or, what sorts of things?
We had natural products, but there was nowhere you could find natural products at that time. So we had a chemist. So we actually did them in a kitchen and then gave it to a chemist because we didn't want the oil and the parabens and all these things that today we know. But at that time, everyone says there's no problem with putting mineral oil on your body. It just makes it better. So today we know. So we did a lot of things that today is common knowledge, but 23 years ago wasn't talked about. So yeah, we again, I think one of the essence is that we listen to our heart, what our hearts wanted to do, more than the market research and what everyone else is doing. It's like, okay, we don't want to compete with them. We want to do what we want to do. And we were bold enough to do it. So that was the basic of our success, Raison d'Etre. That's how we got started. And then it just grew.
Did you all move to the Maldives to run the spa?
No, we got another 5 spas there that I went and ran. But then Amman wanted us to do their spas. And Adrian Secca was very focused on getting us on board because it said, you're the only one that's doing what I would like to do in Amman. So then we opened the first Amman Puri in Thailand, the first spa, and did Amman spas for 8 years. And then, we did Four Seasons, we got into that, and we got into Taj hotels, and then it just kind of grew. And eventually Maldives wasn't my thing. I moved back to Sweden for a while, and then I moved to Thailand, and I moved to Bali, and then I got kids, and then I moved back to Sweden.
Right. You got back to Sweden with the kids?
Yeah, with schooling and everything. And the kid's father was Swedish, preferred Sweden. So then Raison d'Etre grew out of here.
Amazing. I did not realize all of that. And I think it's so telling that you were able to foresee this new model when you hadn't really worked in a spa, right? I mean, you came more from the fitness side. You weren't a clinician, beauty therapist, but you were able to see how it could be better and different.
Yeah. And maybe that was a good thing. But I have to say, it was a very quick, learning because I had no idea massage and those type of, I mean, I didn't understand spa whatsoever, but there were so few that understood spa, and the people that did work in spa at the time, they were definitely not fitness or not near, nor were the fitness, but they weren't business people. So I think what my personal success was a lot that I was both business as well as spa and wellness focused. So I think that was, whereas most at that time, spa managers, everything, they were all therapists that loved their job, but they didn't know numbers, they didn't know business, they didn't understand marketing. So I could speak to any chief financial officer or finance person on their language, and the same with business leader and hotel manager. And spas at that time was the unwanted duckling, so to speak, and just trouble. So with having that business acumen, it just made it possible for Resodetra, I think, to grow much quicker.
So it probably made your father happy that your university education paid off after all.
I think so. I mean, he was a doctor. I mean, he loved me, but he was a medical doctor who didn't believe in wellness, because the way medicine was when he went to school and what he is, that everything is DNA. And
you're coded, you're born that way, your environment has no impact.
And the only thing that can help you is medicine. So he actually thought that I was a bit of a charlatan, tricking people, and like how you sleep or eat or move has anything to do with your health. It was impossible for him to believe.
Well, that doesn't speak to your father as much as the time and how medical doctors were trained.
Yeah.
They weren't trained to think of those things.
Still today, you have almost zero nutritional education in a doctor's degree for 5 years or the 7 years. There's no nutrition. It's, I think, 2 hours or something. So still today, there's very little, there's no sleep education or anything like that. It's very still the same type of education. It's kind of like the school system for our kids hasn't changed for the last 100 years. Same with the medical system. So
I'm always amazed if I go to a doctor and they don't ask me what I eat. It's like, well, this should be part of the conversation, but that's because we are in that world and they are in a different world.
But it's changed. I mean, 10 years ago, you could not speak to a doctor about wellness. Today, any doctor is interested and understands that it's more to it than DNA and medicine. Everything you do in between you're born and you get your pills has a really big importance for how you feel and how your life is. Our brain, we're not born with the brain cells, and we drink alcohol, they die, and then they never can build. We know that we have neuroplasticity and our brain regrows, and we can do all kinds of things with our brain. So it's completely changed, especially the last 5 years, with how we are welcomed into the medical world and vice versa.
But good for you for being so ahead of the curve. And to your point, Anna, you probably could think outside the box because you weren't in the box, right? You just saw a need and said, let's try it this way, which is sometimes how the best inventions happen, right?
I think so. I think, yeah. And I've always looked, and we were just talking this morning with my wellness innovation team in Six Senses about the strategy for 2023. And it's, if you really look at the behavioral and consumer trends instead of wellness trends and other, if you see how what makes people tick, it's quite easy to understand what you need to do with wellness. And you could see, and even today, that self-care is, people who didn't care about wellness before are suddenly interested in understanding that, okay, I need to actually have an understanding of my wellness, and I need to practice self-care, meaning I have self-responsibility of how I feel. So I think that realization for people has changed consumer behavior today. And
for sure. Don't you think it came out of COVID, though? A lot of it
already started before COVID, but then it just got a huge push because of COVID, because suddenly people were faced with saying, I have a choice in my life. I do not have to be in the rat race and do what I do every day. I can do something else, or I can do what I did before, but I have a choice. So I think that changed people's life considerably during COVID.
So perhaps you can take us on the journey that took you from being an independent consultant into Six Senses. Like how did that happen?
So, yeah, well, what happened was that with raison d'etre we had the crisis in 2008-9 that happened, the financial crisis.
Mhm.
It didn't really hit us until 2010. Um, I just had a baby, so I didn't really see all the red flags because I was in baby land,
Mhm.
and I had my second child, and so suddenly things were going really bad for raison d'etre, and a lot of our competitors actually went under at that time. And I had to take a decision what if I wanted to keep my staff. We lowered our salaries. I decided not to fire anyone. And but we went through some really hard years. At that time, we said, okay, we've done brands for others. We had at that time done the Aman, the Sixensis brand. We did Capella, the Ariga
Mm.
Spa brand. We did Tasha,
Taj. Mm.
Jiva, and we did Kempinski the Spa, the Resens. I mean, we've done all these spa brands. So we said, let's do our own brand because we have not so much work. So let's focus on that. And we did a brand called Live Nordic that we
You want to tell us
trialed.
how that name came about?
Oh yes. So my daughter that was born 2009, her name is Liv. And we were doing all these like Nordic life. What are we going to call this? We knew it was going to be on the Scandinavian, Swedish, Nordic type of spa concept because I'm Swedish. And we couldn't come up with a name. And then one day, Liv came into the office, got dropped off, and Patrick just said, "Liv, why don't we call it Live Nordic?" And instead of all the other names. So it's based. So my daughter's very proud that she has a spa brand named after her.
She
And what
should
was
be.
amazing is also that Liv is in Norse mythology that we see in Game of Thrones and Vikings and all these things. Liv is the same as Eve, Adam and Eve. So
Oh,
she is
really?
the bringer of life, the survival after the catastrophe, and all these things. So she is a mother of Earth, so to speak, in the Norse mythology. So it's also really a beautiful name to carry this spa concept. And
And it
today
translates well in English too.
it does.
Yep.
Everyone can say it. So Live Nordic has been such a great success story because today it makes enormous amount of money because it's on a lot of cruise ships.
Hmm.
And we have some others. So it's really a successful brand. And you come up with an idea, you have nothing to do, and you say, let's create something. You come up with this idea, you create the brand, you go out and sell it. And today it makes raison d'etre millions of dollars every year.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So it's just something that have an idea, execute it, and implement it, and you have no idea where it will grow. So it's going really, really well. So what happened was that 2012, Sixensis was sold to Pegasus Capital Advisor, which was a private equity firm in New York. And raison d'etre had created Sixensis from the very beginning. So they then went back and saw from the creation of when you created it, not much had changed. It was great when it started, but the market had catched up and it was
10
the
years
same
had
as it
gone
always
by,
did.
right?
So they said, could you come back in and change it? And I said, I'm not interested. We've just gone through a recession. We're starting to get back on track. I don't have time. And they said, well, if we invest in raison d'etre and give you resources to hire a managing director, could you come and take over Sixensis Wellness? And I said, maybe we can talk. And I ended up selling raison d'etre to Pegasus. And so and I got a managing director, Anna Gunn. She's amazing. She's still there.
Sure.
So she runs the team. And so I then started to work on both. But I also said that if I take over Sixensis, I want to be able to do a carte blanche because I think wellness is going to be big. And this was before wellness became big. So I said, wellness is going to be big. People need to understand to get result oriented, not just a treatment where it's a deep tissue and you want to get something, but you want to have result oriented program. And the only way to do result oriented programs is if you do personalized wellness. So because you need a different thing than I need to need. And so we all need different things. So we need to have a way to scientifically be able to do personalized wellness as well as non-scientifically. So and I said, the way I want to build this is that Sixensis is going to grow because that was the idea, which it has. You have to do it systematically. You have to put a system in place that can scale in many locations at the same time. you can't do what everyone else has done, is that they get a doctor on board or the experts on board in one location. They build everything around this person and this concept or this third party. And somehow that person wants to leave, or, they get a child or whatever, they things change in their life and they're no longer there, and the whole system falls apart and you're left with nothing. And that's what so many destination spas and so many people have done. So they're not able to scale it in the right quality. So the second location they don't at all have the same.
It's not the same at all, right?
It's not the same. So I said, we want to, and that's going to take a lot longer time to build. So we want a systemized approach. And this is what still none of the big hotel chains they're not doing it enough, is where they're trying to do Band-Aid, like they get this in there, they do with this third party in this location, and then they get this expert and VP or visiting practitioner in this location, and they build a program around it, but it's not sustainable. You need a system. So we did systems around sleep, meaning that we did a system on what beds we buy. How do we build a bedroom, which is scientifically sleep-proof? Still, hotels don't do this. It's incredible. What is needed in lighting, what's needing in temperature, what's needing in material in order for it to be, according to sleep science, a really good bedroom. What bed do we need? Duvets, cushions, the works. And then we can layer in personalized by having sleep devices that are scientifically accurate to measure your sleep. And we can then build programs around that and get the experts in. And you do an online education, you do the across the board, by a sleep doctor. So everyone in Six Senses in every location can grow and do sleep programs.
So basically building it from the bed out.
Yeah. And that's what we did. And we did that with personalized wellness, where we have a biomark testing system, which we couldn't have one that draw blood because we don't have labs in the Maldives and other locations. So we needed another one but it needed to be medical grade. And we find this device with the algorithm, and we've used it for the last 10 years. And it's called medical wellness. Actually, it's used in hospital generally, but we use it for wellness to accurately foresee where are the strengths and weaknesses in a person. And
how does it work? Like, it doesn't take blood?
No, it doesn't take blood. It uses bioimpedance. So you get the body composition of fat, water, muscle, bone. You have an oximeter to do oxygen saturation, but also the stress. So HRV, oximeters, right? So you can get the stress response. Galvanic skin response, that can measure a lot of the it's kind of like a biofeedback system. So you can measure a lot of the hormones and other things. You do a stress test where you stand up and you sit down with breath work and see how the oximeter reacts to that. Blood pressure and intake, weight, length, all of those parameters.
So you learn a lot.
You learn an enormous amount. We've had so many doctors trying to fail it through the years, but they can't, because it is very accurate. And it's used now today mainly in medical systems, not so much in wellness. But for us, we get a very good understanding. Like, if a person comes in for a detox, but if they're too stressed, you can't add a detox stress on the system. We first needs to deal with the stress.
Good point.
Or if you come in a fitness program and want to lose weight, if you don't sleep, there's no point of doing that before we fix the sleep. So those are the things that we're looking for in that, and do personalized wellness. But we have the same device in every location. And the people who are then actually taking care of the guest and using this device has to have about a 5-year education, which could be a doctor or a nurse, Ayurvedic doctor, exercise physiologist, but they need to understand the anatomy and physiological processes in the body with at least 5-year education. And then, but it doesn't, when that person leaves, another person with a similar education can come in, we have a 1-month-long education, and then they have to do, I think it's about 50 people, they have to do screenings and test and get approved, etc. It's pretty rigorous, but today we have it in every location, and it's the same system. So you can go to Douro Valley in Portugal on a vacation, and then you do this test and you see where you're at. You maybe do a couple of days programs, you take it back home, the learning that you have, and then say, I want to go to Hanoi, and you can continue. And you can see what worked and what doesn't. So this is And it's the same we worked with everything, how our Eat with Six Senses is our food program. And that's working with chefs, which was really the most difficult thing I've done. And trying to persuade them to cook healthy and how to cook is not don't do that at home, I was going to say. But again, we had the same system in every location. And then we added the localized. But how we cook and what are principles about how we cook and how we have detox programs or weight loss programs, and the framework is the same in every location. And then we use local ingredients and the chef's creativity to actually cook, but we have the same framework. So the holy grail to scale wellness is that you have a system. And usually it's both technology, education, and people. And you roll it up.
So do you think that having this system has made guests want to go from one Six Senses to another? Like, because maybe to have the biomarker, like, let's see how I did at this one. Do you think that keeps them in the Six Senses fold, the guests?
Yeah, they do. It creates loyalty because for them, I cannot tell you how many guests I've met through these years. I've been there now for 10 years, coming and saying, you've changed my life. I learned that I've gone to the doctors because I couldn't sleep for years and I had sleep medications and I was always tired. And we do this simple test and we realized that the lady, I remember this is one particular lady that I met just recently, was dehydrated because she hated to drink water. So what the team did was to do all these different water with flavors, and we did water testing and put up a system how she could drink water throughout the day. And because she was dehydrated when she slept, her sleep wasn't of good quality. So when she started to drink water and iced tea, all kinds of things that we came up with, herbal stuff, it's changed her life. She now is off all sleep aids. She sleeps beautifully and she has energy. She doesn't get sick. I mean, her whole life has changed with such a simple thing that the whole key to her success was to drink more fluids during the day, good fluids, water, or herbal teas or whatever. And so there's so many lifestyle factors that impact your medical factors or how you're feeling. So for us, people that never forget it. And literally, and there was another one I met in New York just recently saying, a journalist actually said, again, you changed my life because I learned a breathing practice. And suddenly, whenever I'm stressed, I've learned how to do this breathing practice, and it helps me to sleep. It helps me when I stress. I help me when I'm angry at my kids. And I just do this breathing practice and I just calm down. And suddenly I have oxygen in my brain and I can think again. And it's so interesting. So these are simple factors that can really change people's life, and that creates loyalty.
I would think so. I mean, and you must feel great that you and your team are touching people's lives this way. I mean, that's very rewarding. It's not just putting a bed in a room, right? Now, tell me, I heard that Six Senses makes their own beds. Is that true?
No, it's not. We have, it's called Natural Mat. We buy it it's handmade in Devon in England. And it's all sustainable materials and by sheep. So it's sheep wool. So it's sustainable FSC marked wood, and everything is sustainable because you lay there for 8 hours a day, hopefully, or sometimes 9 hours a day in a bed. And we all talk about plastic and microplastic today. To have polyester beds and polyester pillows, and you lay and they're full with chemicals, and you breathe this in every day with endocrine disruptors. And we have about a 50% decline the last 50 years in sperm counts, for instance, a lot because of the endocrine disruptors. So we breathe in these chemicals and microplastics in the beds. And so we talk to sleep doctors. And one of the biggest things is also with beds is that they're very compact. So we get very hot flushes. And that's one of the biggest problems. And we know that because
we know that
we're women and we go through cycles. So this is a bed with natural material that breathes with a lot of air in it. And so it's called Natural Mat. So we only buy our beds from there and I have them at home My family has them because when they slept at my house and tested this bed, they're like, I want what you have because this is magical. So they're amazing beds.
Good to know. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, they're
So
great.
Six Senses, can you speak to the sacred geometry, practice of when setting up a site, and how did that come to happen? I'm not sure our listeners even know what that is.
So sacred geometry, you have things like the pyramids or Machu Picchu or any you could have the pyramid, you have the 5 platonic solids, it's the original shape. So any shape you find on Earth is made from one of these 5 platonic solids. It's a cube, it's a pyramid, it's a tetrahedron, there's a number of names. There are five names. And so these are sacred geometry is based on that, as well as ratio. So the golden ratio and Fibonacci sequence, how everything in nature grows. And so it's a mathematical system. Now, sacred geometry is only as good because the shape of pyramid is a pyramid. Like the pyramids would never be as impactful if they were somewhere else and then on that exact spot, because the shape speaks with the earth. This is what a lot of people don't know about sacred geometry. They think that just having the flower of life or this shape on you will give lots of benefits. But what happened is that our buildings, the sacred geometry, the real sacred geometry is that it speaks with the earth and with the energy of the earth, and the shape amplifies that energy. So we can see that every obelisk or every church that we see in the world today is generally built, or always built unless it got moved, on what we call a power spot, where it's an increased amount of energy. So that was always what was built. They found through a system called radiesthesia that still works today, is they found with pendulums and others, and other people just feel it straight away that this is a great energy in this spot. That's where they build the church. That's how houses were built. If you go to any house built before the 1900s, they're built on the ley lines of the magnetic ley lines on the earth. The fire space is put where we have the most negative power spot. Dogs and cats. Cats always lay on a curry cross because they know that's where they feel at most. They get energy from there. Humans do not. So you use sacred geometry shapes together with the ley lines in the earth and the energy of the earth that is part of water streams and power spots and vortexes. And then you amplify those energy. And that's what we look at when we look at Six Senses, is that from every location, we see how we can amplify the energy. And sometimes, and now it gets a bit more unscientific, but this is what we have known for thousands and thousands of years, is that the earth is a living system. And things that happens in a place, like if you have a cemetery, it's a lot of strange energies going around. If you've had bad things happening where we have a Six Senses, then you need to clean that out. So we also work with anything from earth shamans to feng shui experts to biogeometry experts to cleanse the earth and to make sure that the building that is already there is as clean and has as good energy as possible. And and we do this in both existing and new buildings. So if I take Douro Valley in Portugal, this place was, before we came on board, it was forced closure. So the bank bought it. It was a hotel. It never worked out. Whatever they did, no one came. People didn't want to stay. They didn't like it. I came there the first time and I'm like, ooh, this is not good energy. We need to fix that.
You could feel it. It was you were aware.
Everyone can, and we can all feel it. We can feel whenever we go into a building or to someone's home, you thought, this is so nice here. Or you can feel like, and you feel it when you meet a person. There's completely no science to it, but you just energetically immediately feel, I like this person. I don't like this person. I like this place. I don't like this place. And so everyone can feel it. So it was and obviously because it was bankrupt, the place, and it's the most beautiful place on earth. I said, okay, we have a sacred geometry, feng shui, biogeometry expert. Alberto is his name, that we work with from Brazil. So we need to get Alberto here. He did lots of work on the land. He even bought the original owner where someone had died and there was a lot, and kind of made peace with the land and the owners and the original house. And today it is the most successful hotel in Portugal. And
That's amazing.
Everyone that comes there nowadays says, it's such an amazing energy. I feel so at peace. I love this. I just love the feeling. Everyone says the same thing when they
So
come
you
to hear
didn't need
about
to
it.
move any buildings. He did whatever he does. What did you call that science? It started with an R.
Radiesthesia. So, when you can have mental or physical radiesthesia. It's where you went with, what do you call it when you went with these to find water?
The diviners.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot more science to that. It's been
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous in a lot of, but you can have mental radiesthesia where you just connect your mind, but you can also have physical radiesthesia with pendulums and other things. There's a whole science. And if you want to know more about that, you can go and study biogeometry.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a biogeometry.co. something, but it's by Dr. Ibrahim Karim.
Okay.
I've done all his courses. It's pretty amazing because it really makes you understand. Also, it has science on how you can mitigate EMF, 5G, and he does clinical studies on it. It's not just like it's something out there. He actually does clinical studies. So he did, and just to pass this was that Hamburg, a city in Switzerland many years ago, they put this Wi-Fi tower up and people started to get epilepsy, cancer started, and they got migraines. Swisscom and the Swiss government tried to do everything, but they needed the Wi-Fi, they needed the connection, but
Sure.
People were getting sick. People were very angry. So in the end, last resource, they asked Dr. Ibrahim Karim to come there and do biogeometry. And he was there for a couple of weeks, fixed it, and suddenly everything was gone. It's even a book written about it called The Miracle of Hamburg. And they said, this cannot be true. So he did the same thing with another city where they had the same number of high air cancer, etc., with the same results. And they were going to do this all over Switzerland. Then it got into politics and all kinds of things. But there's so many clinical studies on biogeometry and how you can mitigate EMF, 5G, and also make your home, all those electrical, how you sleep, so you don't sleep in a bad spot. And if you do, you can correct it and through energy qualities. But anyway, so biogeometry can show you scientifically how radiesthesia works in a more scientific way.
I love the idea of some guy in Egypt walking along and being like, oh, here, we should put it here and it should be a pyramid. I mean, it sounds like that's kind of how it evolves. They choose the shape based on the energy of the place.
Yeah, and we have dead buildings today that are sealed with plastic, etc. But before we did alive buildings that breathed, that spoke to the earth. We built them with the ley lines. There's not a farmer in the world today that doesn't work with speak to the land, with the moon phases and how you harvest, and also how you put your crops in what lines to make them grow better. There's so much research, and again, biogeometry has shown, you do two different fields with biogeometry and without, and you see how the crops grows. And so there's not a farmer today that doesn't use this. They just don't talk about it because it's not okay, because it's not scientific enough. But for us, I mean, I was just speaking to a lady the other day who's going to help us in Napa Valley, which we just signed. So she's going to come in from the very beginning to help us to how do we put the walkways, the roads to divert energy the best way. She's going to cleanse the land because there's some strangers there, and get it all done. And then we're going to start building. But the owners really wanted her because we have others, but she really wanted, and she's amazing. So I just spoke to her. So it's going to be great to do that from the very beginning. So she's going to direct architects. It's like, okay, that building should be put like this, and we should do like this, and we can put the door there. So that's going to be amazing. That's the best way of building a hotel, is to use that from the beginning.
Anna, doesn't it cost a lot more to go to these lengths to build something?
No, It
No?
doesn't, because if you just change the direction slightly, or put the building like this and put the road like curved like that, it's the same cost. You just have the cost of the consultant, so to speak, to do it, which is generally a couple of $1,000, let's say,
I guess, yeah,
$10,000,
that's not a lot over the course of a big
with
project.
$1 million of building it. And the whole success of the location can be based on this, which we
So
see in India, in China, in Japan, where they use this, is that how you build is based on the success is based on feng shui.
it's very worthwhile then. So let's talk about technology. And we're in the modern world. We have tech. We're seeing it come into spas for various reasons. I mean, new things to do. Some are effective. We have labor challenges. What do you feel is a way to decide if something is a useful technology or not as good? How do spas sift through that?
Yeah, with technology, it's easier to look at the science. So I think you have to, and we can take a couple of examples. We have cryotherapy. Cryotherapy, there's a lot of science to ice bath, cold bath. It's been done for thousands of years. Elite athletes has used it. Science is there. I do it 4 times a week, maybe 4 or 5 if I'm home.
I saw the video of you going in the lake with the ice on top. It's like, whoa, she practices what she preaches.
And I have across my corner, or actually it's one of, I'm a partner in it, but we have a cryotherapy, red light, infrared sauna, and paddle, because I love playing paddle. But I run down there. I'm going to run later today, just do a 3-minute cryotherapy in minus 100 degrees Celsius and 15-minute red light bed. And I do not get sick. I have not even had a cold since I started doing this. And it's pretty amazing. But the science is there. But then we have what everyone is talking about today is hyperbaric chambers. The science is not there.
Right.
But it's like the emperor's new clothes. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone wants to do it. We're putting it in, and people are flocking to it. And until the science is there, and hopefully it will be, it's just haven't been able. And the only scientific study that has proven that it's good for general health. It's very good for brain damage, obviously decompression sickness, as well as burns. But then you have to have, if it's good for burns, you need it in the whole, in the whole system, so to speak, in the whole chamber. But that would be very dangerous because it's highly explosive. So instead you put pure oxygens up cannulas, and then it's a pressure that's supposed to push oxygen out to the cells. So far, the only study that has been done was done in Israel. And they did hyperbaric chamber, but they did it with cycling high oxygen and low oxygen. So you get hypoxia, it's called. And hypoxia is highly researched, is that if it's like high altitude, if you go up higher up, you get more blood cells, you get more oxygen in your body with less oxygen. It's counterintuitive, but it works. So, but you can only cycle oxygen like that in a medical facility. And it's under a pressure that is higher than we're able to do in spas. So we actually had at the Global Wellness Summit in Tel Aviv, we had the guy who's done the research, and he was very angry and saying, whatever you're doing in spas with hyperbaric, it does not work. Don't ever
I've seen people
research
with hyperbaric chambers like taking their laptops in there to do work, and I'm thinking, wow, oh, really? Okay. Is that how it works?
We're actually, what we're doing now, because we saw one in London, which we're opening later this year. But in order to make it kind of like, because I want to do things that are real, I said, let's do one which is a 4-seater, so you can have a meeting in there. So why not have a meeting in a hyperbaric chamber?
Why not?
So that's fine, but don't make the claims that it will make you live longer, healthier, until there are actual claims. But with cryotherapy, you can. Hyperbaric, it's one of those emperor's new clothes. So let's see, maybe it will come out and say it's amazing for longevity. But so far, there is no research that says that to do it under pressure of like 1.8 with cannulas, the way we're doing it today, with not cycling the oxygen, has any benefit. There's no research in the earth that can say that with general wellness and health and well-being.
Well, good to know. Let's speak to what your average spa, day spa, hotel spa somewhere, what kinds of technologies are you seeing on the horizon with all of your research that might be of interest to our field?
There's so much. I mean, we've just opened Crown Montana in Switzerland, where we have a whole recovery, we call it recovery lounge. And there's some very old technology that having a revival called PEMF, pulse electromagnetic field. Now, again, there is PMF and there's PMF. You have to have a certain intensity for actually to penetrate, but it's basically using the earth frequency or the Schumann's frequency and pushing that into the body. And it's been shown to increase ATP, the energy, the mitochondrial function, but fantastic for pain management. So any pain, I cured my tennis elbow with PMF. Amazing. Nothing else worked.
Did you wrap something around it or just lay on the mat?
Well, usually the mat are not strong enough. So we have a system in Crown Montana that is costing like $40,000 because that's what I mean. But you can buy rings that I have that you can put like with PMF that are a couple of $1,000s that I have that you can put around any body part because we have a whole chair, a whole system in Crown Montana. But that is something because it's so researched, there's so much research and it's amazing for knees, backs, shoulders, elbows, pain. And there people go skiing. They're in great pain.
Sure.
So it really helps them to be able to go skiing the next day. The Normatec boots or also their Therabody, but the compression boots, also amazing. A lot of research of pumping blood and healing. You have the red light. Red light is absolutely amazing because we now know that we actually do a photosynthesis just like plants do in our cells. So what happens is, again, you increase ATP, mitochondrial function, and you push nitric oxide out into the bloodstream, which has all kinds of beneficial consequences for us. So red light is absolutely amazing. Infrared is fantastic. Vibroacoustic chairs.
Love that.
So good because we have VR. VR is still a hard sell because people feel uncomfortable with VR. So we're doing it more in hotel rooms because otherwise you feel like you don't know what's happening around you and you feel very insecure. There are a number of apps and binaural beats and other electrical stimulation to your brain to relax you. Various other types of goggles and glasses, all of those. We have Roxiva as a LED light, pulsed light that can help to focus. It can help to relax you. It can help you to get almost an out-of-body experience that we have. This is absolutely amazing. So all of this, we have 8 stations with vibroacoustic chairs. We have red lights. We have Normatec boots. We have vibrational plates with red. I mean, we have all. So people can actually go in after
like do a circuit
or hiking. Yeah, and also because if you want to forbid, let's say you go out skiing and you're burnt or you got sun damage, you can go and do the red light because red light was originally used in hospitals for burns, for eczema, for scars. So obviously it's very beneficial for your skin because it only penetrates just a little bit under the skin and then stimulates collagen production. So it helps to heal much quicker. So you've been out skiing, you're a bit burned, so you take the Normatec boots to increase blood flow. You put a red light face mask on, you put some binaural beats to just relax you, and you zone out, and you get healed in 30 minutes, both your skin, your body, and you get relaxed. So you are ready to go out skiing the next day in a much greater way. Oh, I did fall and I hurt my knee. Get onto this. So we have a pain management with a PMF. And again, we put on various relaxation, new calm and other relaxation techniques just to give you, because the more you relax, the more you take in the technology.
Right, sure.
Obviously, ice bath, cryotherapy, infrared, all of these things, it's going to become mainstream soon. And also it's good for business because you have one person looking at for 8 stations. So you can have, and we're stacking the biohacking devices. So you can do IV while
Mhm.
you have Normatec boots
Mhm.
and relaxation and red light therapy. So you do them all in combination. It's like going to the hairdresser and doing your nails at the same time and your
Mhm.
eyebrows.
Sure, why not?
Um, why not? So you're doing it all and increasing the actual, and then we couple that with a shot of whatever you're needing. So you couple it with the food and beverage and supplements and other things in order to maximize the effect. So we work inside out and with technology, with relaxation. And I think it massages is always going to be the biggest thing, and the touch, the human touch, and to get human interaction. But this is a great way to increase the efficacy of whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice coming from a wellness pioneer who obviously is pioneering these. That recovery lounge sounds amazing. So in closing, Anna, can you tell me what, like, you're a wellness pioneer. What does that mean to you? Like what you take that very seriously. You always know what's ahead before the rest of us. I mean, how does that work? How do you become like you?
I think you have to be a risk taker and try out new things. And when I said to my boss that I want to have a title that's wellness pioneer, and he's like, no one is going to understand what that is. But I said, it allows me to do mistakes. If I'm a chief wellness officer, or a political, I have a completely different type of expectation. But if I'm a wellness pioneer, I can try things and I can fail. And I've done that through the years and say, okay, that didn't work. We need to modify, or we need to take that out. We tried to do 1-day wellness programs at Six Senses during COVID because we thought people want something lighter. It hasn't worked out, but we tried it, and now we know people are not interested in 1-day wellness programs. But so if you're a wellness pioneer, you can go out and you're pioneering things, you're trying things, and you're seeing what works and what doesn't, what sticks. So, but you also have to be prepared to fail. I think that's the main thing, is that and so many people are afraid to fail and they want to do what's in the box. So, and I don't really, I'm more a explorer and adventurist and more curious. So if I fail, I fail. And if that makes me get fired or whatever, that's fine. I'll do something else. So I think some people say that I'm completely fearless. I'm not fearless, but they say that I have a lesser degree of fear in myself than many other, I think. And I just do whatever I want from my heart, together with the team that we have today, and we discuss, but we don't look at what always a conventional market research says. We listen to something greater and bigger, and we try things, and then we maybe fail or we succeed.
More often you succeed, but that comes from being a centered person. Maybe that retreat you did so many years ago really set the stage for you to just be centered and do what your heart tells you to do, which has benefited the rest of us. Anna Bjurstam, thank you so much for being the wellness pioneer for the rest of us. We always look to you for our wisdom going forward, and thanks for sharing this time with us.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It was such a pleasure, and thank you for listening to me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I always learn something. I'm going to go off and read now about sacred geometry.
BioGeometry. That's
BioGeometry. Got it. All right. Thank you, Anna. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Lisa.